All right, welcome everybody to the Lakers Legacy Podcast, where Achilles heel? How about a king needs to heal? Specifically, the Lakers king, because they're about to enter into their toughest stretch of the season, and how they fare without LeBron James could make or break their contending chances. And unfortunately, the Lakers didn't get off to a great start last night after losing to the tanking Brooklyn Nets. I'm your host, Jonathan Hernandez, and today I'm going to be potting solo. For this shorter episode, I just wanted to take a closer look at the Lakers' upcoming 11 games or so and break down just how difficult a stretch it's going to be and how I think the Lakers will fare coming out of it. And then I also want to talk about three things that I want to see happen for the Lakers over this next stretch without LeBron James. So let's get into it. Lakers lost to the Brooklyn Nets last night and got flustered by the constant blitzing and doubling of Luka Doncic that Jody Fernandez implemented. It was a very bad loss. Luka didn't shoot well. Austin Reeves shot 3 of 14, and two of those shots were pretty lucky. A banked three-point shot and then a concession layup at the end. So very poor performances from the Lakers' top two guys. And overall, I think the Lakers underestimated their opponent. They underestimated how good of a coach Jody Fernandez is. And they let their guard down after starting off pretty strong, and they could never really regain their footing after the Brooklyn Nets pretty much tied it by halftime. Now, the sky isn't falling yet. The Lakers are still third in the West, and they have still been playing some very high level basketball in the last month. Their overtime win versus the New York Knicks last week showed some very impressive fight and spirit and resilience. And they did well to come back on the road in the fourth quarter versus the Celtics as well. Having said that, after winning 7 games in a row, the Lakers have now dropped their last two and have started to look a bit shaky in their last 3 games as well, even dating back to the New York Knicks overtime win, because for 75% of that game, they were slogging around and not focused. And I think that's been the resounding theme of the last 3 games from JJ Redick, the team not being as locked in as they have been over the last month or so. So, with LeBron James now out an extended absence and LA embarking upon a very rough schedule ahead, how concerned should we be? So, as you all know, LeBron suffered a groin strain versus the Boston Celtics on Saturday. Initial reports say that he'll be out at least 1 to 2 weeks. And while LeBron James didn't seem too overly concerned by the injury post game, neither did Anthony Davis after his Mavericks debut. So you can't really trust what players say post game. And in general, groin strains can be pretty tricky, and you definitely don't want to rush back with that injury if you're not 100% ready, because chances of re injury are pretty high. So if LeBron James is out 2 weeks from the Brooklyn game, he'll miss about 7 more games and potentially make a return Monday, March 24th versus the Magic in Orlando. That would be one of the better outcomes if LeBron James is just out for 2 weeks. Now, the best case scenario is he's back in a week, but I highly doubt that he's going to, again, rush himself back in such a short time span. So let's say the Lakers treat things extra conservatively, especially with a 40-year-old LeBron, and LeBron isn't back till after 3 weeks. If LeBron isn't back after 3 weeks from the Brooklyn game, LeBron James would miss about the next 11 games, which would include the Lakers' second mini road trip to the East Coast at the end of this month. And if he misses the next 11 games, I project him to return around March 31st and come back the Lakers' first home game after that second mini road trip against the Houston Rockets. March 31st versus the Rockets at Crypto.com Arena. So that is the date that I currently have pegged for LeBron James. This is just my prediction of the Lakers going conservative. He may come back sooner. Hopefully he doesn't come back later. But yeah, let's look at March 31st versus the Rockets as the day that LeBron James returns. So if that's the case, let's now look at the Lakers' next 11 games. Now, they obviously already dropped the ball by losing a very winnable game versus the tanking Brooklyn Nets, so that doesn't help their case for surviving the next stretch without LeBron. But let's break down the next 11 games further to see just how grueling a stretch it truly is. All right, so here's the quick schedule rundown, and then I'll break it down in detail even further. We have at Milwaukee, at Denver, we come back home versus Phoenix, San Antonio, Denver, Milwaukee, Chicago. So a nice little homestand, 5 straight at home. And then we go back on the road versus Orlando, Indiana, Chicago again, and the Memphis Grizzlies before returning home to face the Houston Rockets. So let's break that schedule down even further. So over the next 11, the Lakers play 6 games on the road and 5 games at home. They will play 7 teams who have an above 500 record: the Milwaukee Bucks, the Denver Nuggets again, the Milwaukee Bucks again, Orlando, Indiana, and Memphis. Those are the 7 teams who are playoff contenders with an above 500 record. But even out of the teams that don't have a 500 record, the Lakers also play the Phoenix Suns and the San Antonio Spurs, who are still technically fighting for play-in position. And then technically, the Chicago Bulls, who they play twice, are also currently in the 10th seed in the East. And while the Chicago Bulls are the worst team that they play in this stretch and are in the much worse Eastern Conference, again, the Bulls are still currently in 10th place. So they are in prime play-in position. So they might actually be playing for something. So that's 9 out of the 11 games that the Lakers play that are against competitive teams with something to play for. And again, if you want to include the Chicago Bulls into that mix, then technically all 11 teams that the Lakers are playing are all teams who are playing for something. So it's not going to be an easy 11-game stretch. There are no freebies. The Lakers cannot let their guard down or play down to their opponent. Now, within this stretch, the Lakers also play 4 sets of back-to-backs, 3 of which happen over the next week alone. Starting Thursday, the Lakers play 6 games in 8 nights, which is just absolutely ridiculous, absolutely insane. I don't know how any regular team can take on this much of a load. And I understand that some of these games were rescheduled or postponed, but there has to have been a better way for the schedule makers to draw this out a little bit more, because again, 4 sets of back-to-backs in this stretch, 3 sets of back-to-backs in this next week, 6 games, 8 nights. That is just asking for someone to get injured, and the Lakers are already currently so banged up. Even the players who are healthy are still working their way back from injury. So this is going to be the Lakers' toughest test, how they manage the back-to-backs. Are they going to be playing Luka, Vando, and Austin Reeves both games in all of these back-to-back sets, which begin this Thursday? When Rui Hachimura returns, he's probably likely not going to play both games in these back-to-back sets, at least for these first 2 or 3. So then, how is JJ Redick going to juggle with the continuously changing and shifting continuity of this group, with the revolving door of in and out guys again? So this next week is going to be a doozy. This next 6 games in 8 night stretch is going to really test the Lakers' resolve and really test their health as well. So now that we understand the climate of these next 11 games a little bit better, let's take a look at how I think things will shake out from a win-loss record perspective. So I'm going to predict that the Lakers will win in Milwaukee. I don't think Doc Rivers is a great coach. The Milwaukee Bucks are currently missing Bobby Portis in action, and they have been an up and down team who's been susceptible to losing the randomest games against the worst opponents. And I think Luka Doncic is sick and tired of losing and not getting the calls he wants from the refs. And I think Austin Reeves will rebound. So I think the Lakers will leave it all out on the floor versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And they obviously won't be playing down to their opponent. If anything, they'll be hyper focused and be playing up to their opponent in the Milwaukee Bucks. So I do think they have a good chance of beating the Milwaukee Bucks on Thursday with an extra 2 days of rest over these next 2 days. I then have them losing to the Denver Nuggets in Denver the next night. It's the second night of a back-to-back. Nikola Jokic has been rolling. They're going to want the revenge on the Lakers after the masterclass that they put on in doubling and blitzing Nikola Jokic the last game. So a loss to Denver. And then I have the Lakers winning against Phoenix when they come back home on Sunday. Although that one's tricky because it is a 12:30 start time and the Lakers typically don't play well at that time slot on Sundays, but I do have them winning against the Phoenix Suns. I do have them winning against the San Antonio Spurs the next day, second night of a back-to-back on Monday. They're missing Wembanyama, and while they have De'Aaron Fox, I do think the Lakers will be able to still handle the San Antonio Spurs in experience, and they'll be playing back at home. And then the next back-to-back set, Denver, Milwaukee again, but this time at home. I do think the Lakers are going to drop those two. Without LeBron James, that's a tough ask on Luka Doncic to be that engaged on both ends of the floor, especially when he'll have to carry much of the offensive burden and also deal with a lot of those doubles and triples and blitzes that even Nikola Jokic has to deal with on the other end as well. And so, yeah, it's going to be tough to beat Denver. So I have them losing to Denver at home and then losing to Milwaukee at home the next night as well. And then I have them beating the Chicago Bulls on Saturday. That one is going to be their last home game before they go on their second mini road trip. So yeah, and then the Lakers go on the road trip. I have them losing to the Orlando Magic in Orlando. The Orlando Magic are starting to round into form, and while they don't have Jalen Suggs for the remainder of the season, they do still have Cole Anthony, who has stepped up admirably in Jalen Suggs' absence. Paolo Banchero is healthy, Franz Wagner is healthy, and so is Wendell Carter. So I have them dropping that game to the Orlando Magic, who just have a ton of size and versatility. I have them winning in Indiana. This one is a swing game. I could also see them losing this game as well, especially because they have to go up against Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. So I tentatively have them winning against Indiana on the road. And then second night of a back-to-back, they play the Chicago Bulls again. I have them beating Chicago. And then last game in Memphis, I have them losing to the Memphis Grizzlies. So to recap, I've got them winning against Milwaukee, Phoenix, San Antonio, Chicago, Indiana, maybe, and then Chicago again. So that would leave us with a 6-5 record without LeBron James over the next 11 games. Now, I could also easily see the Lakers going 5-6. Hopefully not 4-7. That would be the worst case scenario. But even if they go 4-7, the Lakers have stacked up enough wins over the last month that I think that should still be okay. But I think 5 or 6 at the very least is what we should be aiming for. 6-5 would be one of the better case scenarios, in my opinion. Now, if they go 7-4, then Luka Doncic is going supernova, most likely, or Austin Reeves is as well. And I would absolutely love that. But yeah, for now, I'm going to be pretty conservative and say over this next stretch, the Lakers will either go 5 or 6 or 6-5. All right, so that is my streamlined look at the Lakers' next 11 games without LeBron James potentially. Why don't we take it to break here, pitch it to some of our sponsors, and when we get back, I want to go over 3 things that I want to see happen for this Lakers team and for some specific players over this next stretch without LeBron James. All right, so we are back. So let's get into 3 things that I want to see from the Lakers in this next stretch. 3 things that I want to see them do, whether it's with regards to wanting to see JJ Redick do something or see specific players do something. I have 3 themes/points in mind. Now, some of these are going to sound pretty obvious, but I'll try and expound on them as much as possible and make them nuanced. But let's get into things. Number 1, I want to see Luka Doncic continue to get in further sync with his teammates without LeBron James. Thus far, Luka Doncic has had LeBron James next to him as the greatest safety valve that a player can lean on. And a large portion of Luka's assists have actually gone to LeBron James. For obvious reasons, because LeBron James is an outstanding finisher and one of the most athletic players on this team, and obviously has an insane high basketball IQ. But yeah, thus far, a large portion of Luka's assists have gone straight to LeBron James. And Luka has benefited from LeBron James drawing in most of the defense on some possessions as well. But now, without LeBron James to draw the defense's attention away from Luka, and with teams blitzing him and doubling him even harder than ever before, we've seen it in the last 2 games, most especially against the Brooklyn Nets. I want to see how Luka responds to all of that pressure. I want to see him minimize his turnovers, and I want to see him develop more chemistry with his teammates. Hopefully, guys will continue to get acclimated to how and where Luka likes to swing the ball all over the court. Hopefully, they'll be more ready to just strictly catch and shoot or attack closeouts or understand where to go on the court when Luka is getting blitzed and doubled. And I'm sure JJ Redick will have a game plan for all of this, but it's clear that they are just getting adjusted to teams really creating a wall around Luka Doncic and pressuring him the moment the ball gets inbounded. And so, how will the Lakers respond, and how will Luka continue to gel with his teammates? I want to see him really find that rhythm with the core guys on this team, because there were moments in the Brooklyn Nets game where Luka Doncic would throw it to an open man and they would miss a shot and he would hang his head, or he would have a miscommunication. I think he had 5 turnovers last night, and a guy wouldn't be able to catch the ball cleanly, and you could see Luka start to get more and more discouraged and frustrated. And so how will those kinks be worked out between him and his teammates? Because we're going to get a snapshot of what the Luka era is going to look like over the next 5 or 6 years in this next stretch without LeBron James. So, how is Luka going to lead this team? Will he be able to let go of his angstiness and become a great leader and communicate more and pick his teammates up when they're down and struggling, like guys like Austin Reeves? So, yeah, that's my number one thing that I want to see over this next stretch. How Luka responds as a leader, how he responds as a playmaker who's likely going to get the brunt of the physicality and the blitzes and the doubles. And how is he going to respond in general? Is he going to be cool, calm, and collected, or are we going to see Luka spiraling, continuing to yap with the refs, continuing to force turnovers? So, yeah, it seems simple, but that's the number one thing I'm looking out for. Luka getting more in sync with his teammates and his teammates getting more in sync with him, vice versa, and hopefully them beginning to establish this rhythm without LeBron James. Because when LeBron was here, LeBron had great chemistry with all of the returning players already. Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, Jackson Hayes, they all knew each other's tendencies on the court. And so Luka could kind of lean on LeBron to take the brunt of, still facilitating for him. But now that LeBron's not here, it's going to be the Luka show. He's going to have the ball in his hands and he's going to have to make things happen. Now, he has Austin Reeves to lean on, but Austin Reeves is coming back from a hamstring injury and still isn't himself. And so I think he'll kind of be focused on trying to get his shot in order. And so, yeah, Luka Doncic. Sink or swim time. Let's get a preview of what the upcoming Luka Doncic Lakers era will look like. All right, the number 2 thing that I want to see from our Lakers players is I want to see the other guys take advantage of the usage left behind by LeBron James and really get themselves into a good, confident place on both ends of the court before playoff time. And when I say the other guys, I'm not talking about Luka Doncic. I'm talking about Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, even Jordan Goodwin, who had an outstanding game versus the Brooklyn Nets last night, a career NBA high 5 3-pointers. But yeah, I want to see the other guys take real advantage of the usage that LeBron James leaves behind, the shots that he leaves behind, and really come into their own before he returns. And I'm especially talking about Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, since they are 2 of the Lakers' top 4 to 5 players and are 2 of the more offensively versatile players as well. And so I think it's important for both of them to work off the rust from their short-term injuries and really rebuild their confidence in their shooting strokes, because they are the 2 players who can really take offensive pressure off of Luka Doncic. He's going to pass it out of these doubles to Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, and these are the 2 players who can really attack off the dribble and make something happen. And particularly as it pertains to Austin Reeves, we really need to see him work himself into a rhythm offensively and start to cook again with the ball in his hands. Because since returning from his hamstring injury, Austin Reeves has shot horrendously from the field. He's currently shooting 25% from the field in his last 3 games, 31% from 3. He's been settling for way too many contested pull-up threes and overall has just looked very messy on the court. He did a better job passing the ball and playmaking in last night's game versus the Brooklyn Nets, but he still couldn't hit a jump shot to save his life. And whenever he knifes into the paint, he's been too focused on grifting and getting the foul call instead of focusing on the shot that, yeah, he just really hasn't been able to work himself into a rhythm. And he's the number one guy who really needs to take advantage of LeBron James missing in these next few games, because he's going to get a chance to run some units again, orchestrate the offense, run some pick and rolls, and really knife into that mid-range area, hit some midi pull-ups. And yeah, he, out of anyone else, needs to step up as that number two guy, the way that he did before Luka Doncic came. The way that he was the number two guy for LeBron James when AD was out, when Luka Doncic hadn't yet suited up, Austin Reeves now needs to be that number two guy for Luka Doncic, because Luka is going to need him. And then Rui Hachimura, whenever he comes back, he's likely going to be very rusty. But with LeBron James out, Rui should have every opportunity to get some shots up and find his rhythm as a scorer again. Because I know anytime Rui has had a mini gap in his games played, he typically comes back pretty slow, and it takes some time for him to find his three-point shot again, which is very unfortunate because he was shooting so well before this injury. He was really rounding a corner and being a beast on both ends of the court. He was super locked in and engaged, but with this injury, I worry that we'll have a relapse of some of Rui's worst tendencies. And so luckily, even with that rust, because he's coming back with LeBron James out, Rui should have ample shots. He should actually get some opportunities in the post, in the triple threat position, to really drum up some rhythm for himself again. So even if it looks a little bit ugly and clunky, Rui's first few games, I think the added shots and added usage that he'll be taking from LeBron James will help expedite that process, hopefully. And obviously, the number one thing with Rui is hopefully he does not re-aggravate his injury again. And then lastly, I also want to see Dalton Knecht continue to roll, because he has been really finding himself offensively lately. Over his last 6 games, Dalton is averaging 13 points on 54% from the field and 44% from three, knocking down 2.7 threes a game. He's refound his three-point shooting stroke and has gotten comfortable knowing when and where to play off of Luka, especially when it comes to running the break and catching those outlet hit-ahead passes for those touchdown layups. He's also gotten a little more usage to do some more things with the ball and attack closeouts and snake his way into the mid-range for his pull-up midi game. He's even started to show some flashes of better defensive awareness as well, and done a better job leveraging his sturdy frame, physicality, and athleticism to bother offensive players as the weak side help defender. And so I really want to see Dalton Knecht in this next stretch continue to bust through this rookie wall and finish strong, because if he can maintain this sort of status and steadiness and rhythm when LeBron James returns, then we are going to be a very deep playoff-ready team of 8 or 9 guys who can be called upon in the playoff rotation, who should already be in a place where they've hit their stride, and all they need to do is play off of LeBron James and Luka Doncic. So number 2, I want to see the other guys really take advantage of the usage left behind by LeBron James. All right, lastly, number 3, I want to see Christian Koloko get some minutes. Christian Koloko is currently second in the G League in blocks per game, averaging around 3.4 blocks per game, and has been playing very solidly over the last month with the South Bay Lakers, averaging a double-double in that time span, or around a double-double. Christian Koloko hasn't played with the big squad since right before the All-Star break, I believe February 13th. And so I think now that we're rounding the corner of this season, and Christian Koloko should still have enough games in this next stretch in his G League NBA max cap to be able to play freely, I think the Lakers need to give Christian Koloko another look. We need to swallow our pride and scrap the Alex Len tryout auditions plan and really get Koloko back into the rotation, back into a rhythm to see if he can provide us with anything. Because in the times that he has played for us this season, he's been very solid to very good, especially defensively. And Christian Koloko still has the best measurables and fundamental defensive IQ than any of our other current bigs, Jackson Hayes, Trey Jameson, and especially Alex Len. Also, Christian Koloko is just taller, longer, and more disruptive than Jameson defensively, and he can also rebound better and is more of a lob threat than Trey Jameson. While Trey Jameson sets better screens and can muscle people around, Christian Koloko is the more versatile, quick twitch defender. And I think he would really help the Lakers out with their rebounding concerns because Christian Koloko can go up and contest a shot, but also he has that second and third jump where he can also outstretch his arms and grab and secure the board as well. Whereas Trey Jameson has had trouble over this last stretch to really secure the defensive boards because he's focused on not giving up position in the paint. And so guys like Day'Ron Sharpe have been able to take advantage of Trey Jameson's mediocre defensive rebounding ability. And in general, Christian Koloko aside, I think in this next upcoming stretch, the Lakers really need to sort out their big man rotation as a whole and really figure out who they want to cut and who they want to convert into standard contracts between Trey Jameson, Christian Koloko, and Jordan Goodwin prior to the playoffs. I think Goodwin is going to get a spot, and I think unfortunately Cam Reddish is probably going to be the casualty, even though I think Cam Reddish should also get a chance in this next stretch. But moving Jordan Goodwin to the side, from there, the Lakers really need to figure out what they're doing with their center rotation amongst Alex Len, Christian Koloko, and Trey Jameson. If it were up to me, I'm cutting Alex Len and turning one of Koloko or Jameson into a standard deal. But in order to make those moves and make that decision, we need to see Christian Koloko get another stint first. We need to see him out there gelling with the rest of the group, gelling with Luka Doncic as a lob vertical threat. And we need to see how his rabid length and mobility fit in the Lakers scheme, which I think it should fit perfectly with the way the Lakers have been defending with Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jackson Hayes, and Rui Hachimura all extending out to the three-point line and converging down into the paint and pulsating in and out. So I think Christian Koloko should fit pretty well. But all of that remains conjecture until JJ Redick finally starts funneling minutes into Christian Koloko once again. Trey Jameson has had his time. We know what he can be. We like that he's a bruiser. Now it's time to shift back to Christian Koloko to see if he can give us anything. Because by the end of March, we should be in a place where we know who exactly we need to cut, whether it's Cam Reddish and Alex Len, or maybe we cut Markieff Morris, even though I know he's been a great locker room leader and been pretty essential to Dalton Connect's turnaround over this last stretch. And I know LeBron James has a very good relationship with Markieff Morris, so he probably won't get cut. So really, we're looking at Alex Len and Cam Reddish as the two guys who get cut. And if we're already saving a spot for Jordan Goodwin, then we're looking at who do we cut Alex Len for? Christian Koloko or Trey Jameson? I think it's going to be a battle between those two players. And for me, I would still standardize Christian Koloko, but again, he hasn't been playing, and so it would be foolish for us to do that without knowing exactly what he can bring to the table in this new Luka Doncic centric roster. So yeah, number 3, I want to see Christian Koloko get some minutes, and I want to see the Lakers really sort out and figure out their big man rotation moving forward and who they want to standardize and cut by the end of March. All right, so that does it for my rambly solo podcast episode. Tommy will be back for the next one, but for now, I just wanted to really fill in the gaps and give an update episode of where the Lakers stand given the recent news of LeBron James' injury. We hope that he heals up fast, but also that he doesn't rush himself. And in the interim period, several guys have an opportunity to step up, including Luka Doncic. He can give us a snapshot of what Luka Magic will look like in the upcoming future in this next stretch. And yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road of the Lakers season. And this next stretch will really determine where the Lakers stand as a contender as they head into the playoffs, because by March 31st, I believe there's only about 7 or 8 games left after that. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on Twitter or X at Lakers Legacy Pod. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Lakers Legacy Pod as well. Please also give us a 5-star rating and review on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify app. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, this has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.